How would you like to reposition yourself for the upcoming market changes? You know what the problem is? We are surrounded by so much of negative social media, negative messages being yelled at us from all corners of our, sensitivities, that sometimes we become jaded and we stop registering some of these messages. I'm here to help remind you that I foresee a huge market change coming up, and that comes from my private experience, and I will go about it in just a few minutes. But before that, I promise you this is not going to be a negative themed panic-stricken video. I'm going to give you a couple of steps that may actually help you or help a loved one who may be at risk. So let's roll then. It goes back to 2008. I was working in Silicon Valley, and when the housing market hit rock bottom and the banks shut down and a bunch of different changes happened that were not a very happy situation for a lot of middle class working people. And what I saw over there, what I experienced firsthand, witnessed firsthand, was the markets came crashing down. This is 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, right? The markets came crashing down, and they stayed down for almost 2 years before they started resurging. And in those 2 years, a lot of wipeouts happened. A lot of companies went down, revenues went down, companies were short sizing, small businesses were going under. So I personally feel that we are at a juncture where this whole sickness phenomenon that has happened with coronavirus is going to hurt an already hurting economy right in the nuts. And when we come out of it, whenever this whole lockdown period is over, business is going to stay down because travel is going to stay restricted. A lot of industries which were getting hit are going to get hurt even worse. Hospitality industry, the travel industry, logistics industry, a lot of different industries are going to get hit real hard. And what I see coming is that a lot of people, just like you and me may be at risk. And the reason I say that is because, like I said, when I was working in Silicon Valley back in 2008, I saw all of this happening. And thankfully, in those times, I was personally protected because I was working on a B1, B2 visa, which basically means that my job would always be secure back in India because the Indian market was relatively unaffected. But businesses went down, jobs went out, a lot of people lost their housing. It was not a happy situation. Of course, we are as a civilization much more financially robust and secure because the level of savings and investments, etc., is pretty high in India. But the layers of protection that I had back in the day are not here anymore for two reasons. The first, the world is much more a global economy. The Indian market is not very different from the global market today. Anything that happens in the global market, whether it's oil prices or gold prices or whatever it is, hits India pretty much the same day or the same week. The second thing is Indian employees working for foreign companies are no longer underpriced, which basically means that in the US today, for mid-senior management level, a good salary in a tier 1 city is considered to be anywhere between $60,000 to $130,000 a year. Those are pretty much the salaries that we are making in India. That basically means that there is no incentive for a foreign company. If you work for a foreign company, if you know a loved one who does, an American company, a British company, there will be no incentive for them to retain Indian employees because Indian employees do not represent a cost saving as opposed to a local employee. So that's pretty much it. Let's go to the next slide. These slides are from the sales consulting that I do for corporates. So I thought I should just pick them together and see if I can help somebody, one of you or one of your loved ones in case they need this information. So investment to GDP ratios back in 2008, 2009, 2010, governments as well as private equity investment in businesses reduced, and it stayed low for almost 5 years between the period of 2007 and 2012, and that's when it started resurging. And like I said, I was working in a US company at that time, and we saw all of that. We saw that the investment stayed low. Thankfully, we were in a bootstrap company, so we did not require government investment in our industry or private equity or investment banking investments in our company. So we were doing good. But real quick, what happened was that the rate of death, the red one is the rate of death and the blue one is the rate of formation of companies, and it formed a whale's belly right before the recession, right? So the rate of death was at an all-time low and the rate of birth was at an all-time high right before a crisis, which was the housing crisis, hit. Now, if you look at the Indian market, pretty much the same thing. A lot of new companies have been coming up because of electronicization of company formation, because of GST, etc. It's become more and more easy for a lot of new companies to come in. A lot of foreign funded companies have started in India, which is, companies like, let's say, Uber or Oyo Rooms or whatever it is. And what has happened is that this whale's belly has formed, and the whale's belly gets punctured by a cosmic event. And the coronavirus could be that cosmic event. And what happened right after that for 2 years was the whole industry went belly up, and the rate of death of these companies spiked and the rate of birth declined, which basically means that the large companies which were losing market share and revenue started firing their employees, and the small companies were pretty much like dying. The rate of death was so high that the overall quantum of business available, you only get to work for a company if there is enough business in the market to sustain your paycheck. And the whole thing went belly up, and it stayed low for almost 2 or 3 years, after which the curves reversed once again. So it's after 2010. Now, I've given the sources of all this information. You can go and check for yourself, and that will give you a little bit of education on how industry works. But this has been my profession for the last 10 to 15 years, so it kind of comes naturally to me. Also, if some of you are watching it who have known me as personally in my life for the last 5, 10 or 15 years, you will know that I'm rarely wrong about money, which is a skill or an instinct that I don't know it's good news or bad news, but I see the bad news coming. So real quick. Now, what really happened, we'll go back to this graph again. What really happened was the industry went down, went into negative, and then slowly started resurging, and back by 2011-12, it was back to normal levels. So how did that happen? When the birth rate was so low and the death rate was so high, and nobody was really investing in businesses, the government was not aiding businesses, private equity was not helping businesses. So what really happened? What really happened, my friend, was that people who were at mid-senior positions, who had lost their jobs, in big companies, they started forming small consulting operations. So remember this: if a big company goes down in revenue, they don't want the employees, but they still need the business function. So what happens is they still need the HR, they still need the marketing, they still need the finance. They just don't want employees, because employees are a liability. Every company has to account for not only the salaries, but also the health care, the retirement benefits, or the what we call over here as gratuity and all of that. They have to budget for all of that, and they have to show it on their balance sheet, which is a huge liability. So companies are more likely to get rid of the person while trying their best to retain the function. What happened in the US was a lot of these people who quit, they started their own consultancies, and they said, I'll provide you I'll provide the industry the staffing operation, or I'll provide you the accounting operation, outsourced accounting, I'll provide you marketing consulting, sales consulting. And those people actually formed the backbone of resurgence of the US economy back in those days. Now, incidentally, due to a stroke of luck, I was working in such a sales consultancy, and we made a killing in those times, because the amount of business that we got post-recession almost doubled or tripled. And between the years of 2008, 9, and 10, we doubled our revenue almost every single year. In fact, that recession was the single best period of career growth. I hate to say that, in my career. But coming back to the point right here, what's going to happen, I feel, and I could be wrong, and I hope that I am wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. The reason I'm doing these videos, and I've budgeted my time every single day, every single evening for this, is because I've realized that a lot of people near and dear to me may be impacted. And I have given my feelers out, and some people have told me that, we need new information, we need new skills. So real quick, between 2008 and 2009, small companies in the US accounted for only 44.5% of total employment. Total people employed by small companies was only 45%. But by 2009 and 2010, that had grown to 62%. So all of these small people who were either sick and tired of their dead-end corporate jobs had started small businesses, and they'd started pulling in the cheap labor. The labor will become cheap because everybody's out of a job and everybody's looking for options. So they were pulling in all the cheap labor, and they were saying, hey, come with me, we'll provide outsourced financial accounting service, or recruiting service, staffing service, sales and marketing service. I was in such a service, and we will provide that back to the industry at a fee. And these people actually ended up providing maximum employment over the next 2 to 3 years. 5 years after the recession, small companies were providing 65% of the employment in the US. 65% of the employment in the US. And unlike India, that country does not have, hidden employment, unorganized sector and all of that. Everything is organized, everything is counted, everything is, goes under some ministry or the other, or some bureau or the other. So, so small businesses or businesses which would be founded by people, smart people who are who are smart enough to understand the noises and reposition themselves will be the big employers of tomorrow, and they will be the millionaires of tomorrow. If you remember, after 2010, there was a lot of talent, top tier talent from the US, Indian talent, who would form companies actually on Indian soil, and they formed a lot of the bulk of privatization, technology and BPO economy, and a lot of tech BPO related services. They were all founded by Indian people who had understood the science, and they came to India, or they sent emissaries to India, and they formed companies over here as back offices for the US market. Now, unfortunately, this is a little bit of a different situation because Indian cost is pretty much the same as US cost, like we already saw. But I'll help you figure out where the areas of opportunity might be to reposition yourself. Now, these people, the ones who formed small companies, the ones who formed the base of the entrepreneurship, were the killers, the movers and shakers of those times. And how does that help us? Let me take you to so what do we need to do? What do you need to do right now in order to reposition? I've done an earlier video saying you need to build skill sets that are future proof, that are recession proof. And these skill sets may not be the skill sets that you've developed over the last 10 years. So you need to develop different skill sets. You may need to develop entirely different or entirely antagonistic skill sets. And we'll just come to that real quick. So I've got a quick mind map over here with some pointers, and we'll go into this in detail later. We've got an entire week of lockdown left. But if you want to prep for the new economy, you need to understand 3 basic mindsets, and these mindsets will help you, if not today, then maybe 10 years down the line. So this is important information that you could take for yourself. First of all, the difference between thinking for the new world and the difference between thinking with older paradigms is that do not go for perfection, because it has taken you 20 years or 10 years or 15 years to come to where you are, and perfection has become kind of expected. You expect to know about certain things, you expect to be the wise guy, and your company pays you for that. But perfection in the new world is going to be a myth. You're going to develop new skill sets, and you will not be perfect at them when you start. And real quick, the difference between an employee mentality and an entrepreneur mentality is that an entrepreneur looks for opportunities and not for perfection, which is why smart entrepreneurs always go for markets that are not even formed yet, but they look at opportunities and they create their opportunities over there. So Uber is one such example. There was no such concept earlier, and today the world's biggest taxi company does not own any cars. The second concept is the minimum viable product. Whenever, if ever, you decide to go into business for yourself or to create your own brand or to take your message to the market, you will be facing this whole psychological pressure that you're not good enough, your product is not good enough, your message is not good enough or perfect enough. And you will waste your time creating perfection, and the market will escape from your hands. So do not have this pressure in your mind. I want you to release that pressure from your mind. Have a concept of something called the minimum viable product, which means whatever you take to the market, whatever you skill you take to the market, or product or service you take to the market as an individual, as an individual or private entity, needs to be just about enough to focus on one particular need and service that particular need. It's called a minimum viable product, and it is the secret why today's entrepreneurs, which includes everybody from 2000, 2005 onwards, entrepreneurs who became millionaires and billionaires, who were able to ride the wave, started out with little or no money. The reason is that in today's market, you do not need to build a big factory or have 20,000 offices, 10,000 employees, whatever it is, in order to start a business or a company or an entrepreneurship. What you need to do is have a minimum viable product, something that resonates with just about enough people that you can start the ball rolling, and then you build on your way down. In jocular fashion, somebody actually said that an entrepreneur is somebody who jumps with a parachute first and figures out how to open that parachute on the way down. So it's not that dangerous. Nobody ever dies in entrepreneurship. but the minimum viable product is something that you can take to market and then mold according to the market's demand, rather than wasting a lot of time and money building something and then, having to fail. So the reason that the way you prevent any chance of failure is you go to the market with a small enough product and then you build depending on the market's demand. You never invest a whole lot of money, effort, time, etc. in your product. The third thing is always pay to outsource and delegate. As a new entrepreneur, as a person of the new age, as the killer of the sinner, you're gonna be outsourcing and delegating a lot. The mindset is this: if I can do something 100% well, and if I can give it to somebody else who can do 60% well, I will happily pay them to do it repetitively day in and day out and have it 60% perfect, rather than me myself doing it 100% perfect. That is the secret to enjoying your life while building a big business. The second concept is long-term consistency. It doesn't matter what you know today. It doesn't matter how big you are today. It doesn't matter how scared you are today. It doesn't matter how cornered you are today. If you can build a skill, or if you can improve your confidence, or if you can improve anything about your life and your business 1% today, and compound that tomorrow and compound that the day after, over the long term you will be ahead of the game. And that is one of the biggest secrets to being recession proof. So I'll just open this up and I'll start with a quote from the book Longview. It says that you will always underestimate what you can achieve in a year, but always overestimate what you can achieve in a day. So a lot of people who start down thinking new thoughts, building new skills, or building a business, they kind of think about it on day one, they think about it on day two, and they keep thinking and they never take the action, when any kind of action taken consistently would have reached them light years beyond in a space of weeks or months or maybe 1 or 2 years. I was just listening to a video from one of my mentors, Sam Owens. Sam Owens is 26 years old. He came to the US at the age of 22, and working from his apartment single-handedly, he has built a business worth $20 million, and the name of the business is consulting.com. And he started out as consulting small plumbers to find business, find gigs to do, and he built that into a big business. And he says that you got to do something today, and you got to improve upon that tomorrow, and you got to improve upon that the day after, even if it takes you very little time, 15 minutes to 20 minutes to 30 minutes to 60 minutes every single day, 60 minutes every single day working on improving your skill sets will make you future proof in about 3 to 6 months time. I believe in it, and I've worked on it again and again. I've changed my career and industries 3 times in the last 20 years. So that is the one secret that really, really has helped me. The second concept you probably already know is the Chinese bamboo tree. A lot of times when you're going on doing that consistent work, it will not show on the surface, and it will not show in your bank account, because all of these factors are building up, and the day that it breaks ground, you will break. So the Chinese bamboo tree can go 12 years, you can water it for 12 years and it never comes above the ground, but the day it comes above the ground, in 1 year it grows to 13 feet high. So all of those 12 feet were being built inside the ground. And then the moment the breakthrough moment happened, it kind of breaks to 13 feet. So all of those 13 feet were really inside the ground all the time, so to say. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to take you 12 or 13 years. In today's times, you can build a minimum viable product and go to market within a period of 60 to 90 days. And we can talk about that in future videos if you stay around with me. At the end of this video, I'm going to ask you to reach out to me for my private Facebook group, because I don't want to throw these messages out there. They're not relevant to everybody. If this interests you, or this interests any of your loved ones who might be at risk in the new economy, you can have them reach out to me with a private Facebook message, the blue Facebook Messenger thing, and I will reply back to them with the private Facebook group that I'm going to be sharing these concepts later. The third thing is always work on one priority at a time. When you go to the internet, there's a bunch of noise, do this, do that, do the other, everybody's screaming their message, but work on any one particular priority at a time. So real quick, if you have, this is your mind, and your mind is very limited. Your mind is very limited in its capacity, in its storage, in its processing power, and if you make it work in all these different directions, none of these directions you're achieving very much. But if you take the same mind and you use only one direction, you keep on building only in one direction, in 6 months to 12 months, you will have achieved more than 99.9% of the people over here on this planet. So that is another great principle which has served me well. I just wanted to share it with you. The third principle is wide and deep. Your knowledge is going to be wide in certain areas, going to be deep in certain areas. So for example, at your job, your knowledge is very, very deep. You're supposed to know a whole lot about your job stuff, whatever it is you do, your profession. But when you come back, you're hanging out with friends, family, you're hanging out on social media, you tend to give out a lot of opinions about a lot of things that you have zero knowledge in, right? You see these discussions on social media, they're a form of relaxation. You have no knowledge about something, but you still end up giving your opinion. Now in the business world, you're going to have to, there's going to be a little bit of balance. You're not expected to be super perfect about anything that you do. Trust me, that is being a business owner is easier than being an employee if you know what you're up to. So your knowledge is not going to be very, very paramount. If you have a little better than average knowledge, that's cool. And then you're going to have width in how many people can that little bit of knowledge reach out to. Okay, how many people can that little bit of knowledge reach out to? So a friend of mine who was very, very adept at his corporate vice president job suddenly quit his job, and he reached out to the industry that knew him very well, and he tried to offer his consulting services, but he suddenly found that he had lost all credibility just because his knowledge was trapped between him and his previous employer. Only his previous employer knew what he could do, and only he knew what he could do, and the ramp time to let the rest of the industry know what he could do for them was so long that he lost motivation halfway through, and he went and he was jobless for a few months, then he went and started working for somebody else. Now if you want to keep your message with yourself and establish your own brand and reposition yourself for maximum gain in the changing market, and by gain I mean capitalize on it, make that market pay you, then what you need to do is you need to have a balance between how much you know. There's a lot of new skills you'll be learning that you will not know a whole lot about. You'll not be a master of those skills, but you need to keep that message, keep throwing that message out in the market, keep and have people ping back to it, have people signal back to you, so if it's resonating, and B, who are the interested parties who can do business with you tomorrow. So there needs to be a balance between width and depth. Also look at this as traveling somewhere far in the night, right? So if you've ever driven on a highway from Bombay to Pune, or from Bangalore to Goa, or from Delhi to Chandigarh in the night, you switch on your headlights, but the headlights don't show you the whole way. The headlights are only going to show you like 20 feet. They will show you the way ahead only after you traverse those 20 feet. So sitting back and surfing social media and doing a lot of training and preparing and mind setting and preparing yourself psychologically ain't going to help if you haven't traveled those 20 feet on day one. So you got to travel that 20 feet, and then it's going to show you another 20 feet. And then you travel those 20 feet, and it's going to show you another 20 feet. And that's a constant lifestyle. So you don't really go 20 feet and then switch off and switch on your headlights again, and then go another 20 feet, right? The whole thing is one continuous motion. You keep picking up things along the way and they become part of your DNA. The new learning will become effective and will become a part of your DNA only if you keep implementing it again, at the time that you receive it, put it into action, and then make it a part of your being. The third thing is build future-proof assets. Build future-proof assets. There are certain skills that you have that are relevant only for one particular market and one particular industry, and those skills will mean nothing in the new world, right? Almost 50% of the skills that were profit-making or wealth-building skills in the old market will be washed away. And if you've been keeping your ears close to the ground, you've already seen that happening, so I don't need to convince you about it, right? Build future-proof assets and skills. People skills is a future-proof skills because you will always need to deal with people. Financial accounting and being smart with money is a future-proof skill. Sales skill is a future-proof skill. That's the one skill that I built early in the day that has helped me literally in every single market and made my whole skill set future-proof. Now, before we shut off this video, I'm going to give you a free gift. I'm going to give you one future-proof skill that I recommend that you build. That's going to really help you for the next 20 years. I can promise you that if you build this skill of video journaling, you will be future-proof for the next 20 years. And I was told this by my mentor almost 8-9 years ago, and I learned the art of speaking into the camera, which was difficult for me because I'm more used to speaking live in front of audiences, etc. And it's very, very interactive, so you kind of know where you stand, you kind of know whether you're going right or wrong, right? Because there's constant connect and feedback from the audience. Speaking into a dead device is something that I had to learn, and then I had to build another skill of video editing, which has been very useful to me, although you can easily outsource it. But video journaling is something where if every time you learn a new skill, if you can speak into the camera and reiterate what you just learned, not only will that build it straight into your deepest, that skill will go straight into your deepest soul, so to say, but video is forever. If all you do tomorrow is put up a video a day on your YouTube channel, you will automatically collect enough public interest that when you actually float your own consultancy or your own startup, or you go into business for yourself, you will garner so much of attention that you will not all those doubts, etc., will be dispelled, and you will get business from the market. So in today's market, the human connect as well as the technology element are blended together in this one skill, which is called video journaling, which is whatever topic you choose that you want to contribute to society in, whatever topic it is, it could be different from your current job role or your current small business. So I have a friend who is actually provides training services to corporates, and that's not really his passion. So what he does is he actually creates training material on video on how to hack video games. Hack in the sense that how to get through the different levels faster and faster for different video games. And he's a sensation on YouTube. So if it's an area of passion, or if it's an area that you think will help the market tomorrow, if you can journal your thoughts, collect your thoughts, it'll just help you become that much better at collecting your thoughts and taking your message to the market whenever the need comes. Video journaling. And then if you can do so, go ahead and invest in this software called TechSmith Camtasia. I'm actually making this video on Camtasia as we speak. Camtasia takes about 1 week to master. It's a 20,000 rupee software, but I would highly recommend that you start video journaling and you master TechSmith Camtasia. It's a one-time buy of 20,000 rupees. Just find out where there's a website that sells it. And this will really help you for the next 20 years. And I can guarantee you that you will actually message back to me and thank me. Now, before I leave, if you found this useful, and if you would like to keep hearing from me, or if you know somebody you love that could get impacted by the market changes, do send me a message on the Facebook Messenger, the private messenger, and I will send you a link to my Facebook group where I'll be posting some more material going forward into the future. And do like and share if you deem so appropriate. And before closing, I'll just give you a quick saying I read in a book once, and it resonated with me, and I wrote it down in my diary. And in those days, the social media and smartphones were not there, so I did not video journal, but I did a hard journal. And it says, do not fight with change, because fighting with change is like fighting with future. And the only problem with fighting with future is you don't get to win. So with that, get ready to become a killer, and mark off your calendars 9:30 to 10:30 every night, because that is Sinha hour. I'm going to teach you how to be a killer. Tomorrow I'll be doing a Facebook live where I'll be teaching you the 5 elements of authority and how to become an authority in your industry, so that if ever you choose to quit your job, the whole industry will trip over each other to reach you and get you to work with them. So 9:30 tomorrow, see you. Share this message and do send me a messenger, the IM if you want to receive the invite for the Facebook live. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.